Picture this. Thousands of soldiers, brave cavalry charges, blood-soaked battlefields. But why are they trying to kill each other? For a bucket, a dog, or a flagpole? History isn't always glorious. Not everything happened for noble reasons. Sometimes the most devastating wars, the ones that cost thousands of lives, started because someone did something absolutely bonkers. Today, we're diving into 9 wars fought for the dumbest reasons in human history. Stories so ridiculous that nobody would believe them if they weren't actually true. Ready to have your mind blown? Before we jump into these insane stories, understand this. Wars are never about just one reason. It's about pride. It's about national honor. It's about taking a tiny insult and blowing it up into a massive deal. It's about leaders wanting to prove how tough they are. And sometimes, it's just really dumb. The Bucket War, a medieval freakout over a wooden pail. Italy, 1325. 2 rival cities, Bologna and Modena. Bologna's the cool kid, wealthy, powerful, the center of trade. Modena's like that jealous neighbor who's always looking for trouble. One dark night, a sneaky squad of Modena soldiers creeps into Bologna. Not to steal gold, not to kidnap anyone important. Nope. They're there to steal a bucket from a public well in the city center. And here's the kicker. We have no idea why. Was it a prank? A deliberate insult? A dare gone wrong? History doesn't tell us. But Bologna? They absolutely lost it. The mayor, the city council, the rich merchants. Everyone felt like their honor had been dragged through the mud. How dare someone steal their bucket? So what did Bologna do? They mobilized 30,000 foot soldiers and 2,000 cavalry and marched on Modena. This wasn't a surgical strike. This was overkill. The battle happened mainly in a place called Zappolino, and it turned into an absolute slaughter. Thousands died. For a bucket. The beef between these two cities lasted over 200 years. 2 centuries of hatred, triggered by a wooden bucket. It only ended in the 1500s when they had to team up against Spain. Let that sink in. 200 years of grudges over kitchen equipment. The pig incident. When one dead pig almost started a world war. Zoom over to North America, 1859. An island called San Juan. America and Britain are both claiming this island. Neither wants to give it up. So citizens from both countries are living next to each other. Awkward, tense, but technically peaceful. Then a pig ruins everything. An American guy named Lyman Cutler has a farm. His British neighbor Griffin has a farm next door. Griffin owns a pig, a hungry, destructive pig. One day, this pig decides to invade Cutler's land and trash his potato garden. Cutler sees the damage, grabs his gun, and bang, pig's dead. Griffin shows up, furious. He demands $100 in compensation, which sounds small until you realize that's like asking for thousands of dollars today. Cutler says, "Nah, I'll give you $10. They start yelling. Their friends show up to back them up. Then American soldiers arrive. Then British soldiers show up. Pretty soon, both countries are sending warships. America and Britain, 2 global superpowers, nearly went to war. Over a pig. Talk about ridiculous, right? The military buildup got so serious that both nations realized they were about to make a huge mistake. So they called in a referee, the German Emperor Wilhelm I. In 1872, he made his ruling. The island goes to America. The pig became the only casualty, and possibly the most famous dead pig in military history. The Dog War, Greece versus Bulgaria, over man's best friend. Fast forward to the 1920s, the Balkans, always a powder keg. Greece and Bulgaria just finished one war, but the wounds are still fresh and the border is super tense. Everyone's just waiting for an excuse to fight again. October 1925. A Greek soldier shoots a dog near the border. The dog was probably from Bulgaria's side. The Bulgarians felt insulted. They wanted payback, but here's where it gets wild. Greece didn't try to apologize or negotiate. Nope, they just invaded Bulgaria. Greek forces poured across the border, took over a small town and basically said, "Oops, guess we're at war now because of a dog." Bulgaria fought back. Soldiers died. When the United Nations finally got them to stop fighting, here's the damage report. 122 Greek soldiers dead. 20 Bulgarian soldiers dead. The dog? Never found. Vanished into the ether. So 100+ soldiers died, and nobody even found the dog. The Flagpole War. New Zealand's dramatic stand. New Zealand, the 1840s. The indigenous Maori people lived there for centuries. Then British colonists showed up and started taking over. A Maori chief named Heke decided he'd had enough. So how did he make his stand? He put up a flagpole. Not just any flagpole. This was a symbol of sovereignty. It basically said, "This is my land. You don't control me, Britain." The British took this as a personal insult. They demanded he take it down. Heke said, "Absolutely not." So the British attacked. Heke defended. And what followed was 10 months of serious warfare. Entire villages destroyed, hundreds killed. Artillery fire, cavalry charges, full military campaigns, all triggered by a wooden pole with fabric on top. After months of fighting, both sides agreed to stop. But here's the punchline. The British never put up another flagpole in that region again. The Maori won, but at a horrific cost. Thousands wounded, villages leveled, families destroyed. And it all started because someone put up a flag and said, "You don't own me." The shortest war ever. 40 minutes of absolute chaos. Zanzibar, 1896. An island off the coast of East Africa. Britain basically controls it. The Sultan, the king, is Hamad Thuwaini. He dies. A successor needs to be chosen. A guy named Khalid Bargash figures that's going to be me, and just takes the throne without asking Britain first. Britain had a treaty saying any new sultan needs British approval. Khalid never asked. Big mistake. Britain basically says, "Dude, step down. We already picked someone else." Khalid refuses and holes up inside his palace with whatever military he has left. An old sailboat, a couple of small ships, some 17th century cannons, and a few ancient machine guns. Basically, junk. Britain shows up with 2 armored cruisers and 3 modern naval guns. The matchup? Pathetic. 9 a.m., August 27, 1896. Britain's ultimatum expires. No negotiation, no mercy, just boom, boom, boom. British warships open fire. The palace catches flames. Khalid's tiny navy gets absolutely destroyed. The Zanzibari flag gets shot down. 9:40 a.m. Done. Finished. Complete. 40 minutes total. The shortest war in human history. A full-scale military conflict over and out in less time than it takes to watch a TV show. And it was all because a guy didn't ask permission before taking a job. A 335-year war with 0 deaths. The laziest conflict ever. Now here's a war that nobody actually fought. 1651. The Netherlands and the island of Scilly, a tiny island off the southwest coast of Britain, officially declared war on each other. From 1651 to 1986, 335 years. That's longer than the entire history of the United States, longer than most modern nations have existed. And for all of those 335 years, these two powers were technically at war. But, and here's the crazy part, not a single shot was ever fired. Not one cannonball. Not one sword swing. Not one person died. The war just existed on paper. Nobody attacked. Nobody defended. Nobody did anything. It was a war that existed only in official documents. For centuries, British and Dutch diplomats probably forgot the war was even happening. Then, in 1986, 335 years later, someone in the Dutch government was probably filing papers and was like, "Wait, are we still at war with that tiny island?" They checked. Yeah, apparently they were. So they finally signed a peace treaty, officially ending a conflict that had 0 actual conflict in it. It might be the most pointless war in human history. Here's what all these stories have in common. None of them are really about logical reasons. There's no economics, no ideology, no genuine strategic benefit. They're all about pride. They're about feeling disrespected. They're about leaders thinking, someone just embarrassed me in front of my people. I have to respond with military force to show I'm not weak. And that's the tragic pattern of human history. Small insults getting blown up into massive tragedies. A pig, a dog, a bucket, a flag. Which of these wars do you think is the most insane? Drop a comment. I genuinely want to know. And here's something to think about. Are there any current conflicts happening right now that seem just as ridiculous as these historical ones? Drop that in the comments too. Because if we're going to learn anything from history, it's that we need to start asking hard questions about why our leaders choose war. If you found this video interesting, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the weird parts of history. Because history is way more interesting when you know the embarrassing stuff. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and definitely don't go starting wars over buckets. And don't forget subscribe channel. See you in the next one.